Hello everyone, welcome back to Tabletop Unboxing. I'm your host, the Board Game Nerd, and today we're going to learn how to play the 1 to 4 player game, Dungeonology. Dungeonology has a very unique concept because instead of going around a dungeon trying to kill monsters, you actually go around trying to research them and their habitats, and you'll be given points reflective of how well you managed to study throughout the game. The person with the most points at the end of the game is declared the winner. Let's begin by opening our box of Dungeonology the Expedition. Put your campus board out like so. Grab your note mats outside for each player. In this variation, we'll be going for a 4-player game. Get your player aid cards and move them to the side. You will notice that each one of the player mats are very unique, but that's only in terms of aesthetic. They pretty much serve the same function and are identical in every way, except for the top right-hand corner, which indicates the player's color, which becomes important later on in the game. Next, we take out our dungeon tiles. There will only be one unique starter location, which is this one. There will be 6 unique level 1 tiles, 6 unique level 2 tiles, and 6 unique level 3 tiles. There'll be more variation in terms of the dungeons as the expansions are released. However, for now, inside the base set, you only get 6 of each. Before starting the game, be sure to shuffle up these tiles randomly. After shuffling, be sure to put the tiles within reach of all players. Next, you will take out the scholar cards, each one with their own unique abilities. Be sure to reduce your stealth value to 0, located on the top right-hand side of all player boards. The first value tells you how many students you start off with at the beginning of the game, as well as how many students you replenish up to once you do a rest action. In this case, Rebecca has 3, so she starts the game off with 3 students. These neat little guys are known as the students. Be sure to place them on top of the board. The second value tells you how many cards to draw up to at the end of the turn. If you have 0 cards in your hand, you draw 5 cards. If you have 2 cards in your hand, you draw 3 cards, and so on. The third value tells you how many spaces you can move during your turn. The fourth value tells you how many cubes you are able to study for simultaneously during your turn. The fifth value tells you how many stun tokens you can take before you are forced to take a rest action. The last value will tell you how many cubes you must obtain before you are able to take a peek at the clan card, which I'll explain later. Next, you will take out the panic cards. There will be 3 inside the base game. And without looking, you shuffle and place one down randomly onto the board. Next, players are able to choose which alert card to use, ranging from introductory all the way to hard. For this example, we're going to go for the easy setting. Next, we will follow the instructions given on the alert card. In this particular example, we are to put 5 times the number of players worth of university students into the university bag, along with 1 Omega student. And we place it down here. We will now put 20 university students into the bag, as well as 1 red Omega student. Give the bag a good shuffle. And now your university is ready. Take out the 3 clan cards available in the base game, and give them a good shuffle. Put 1 down randomly into this slot. I'm going to explain to you what these clan cards represent. You can see here, this clan is called the Blood Worshippers. On the top left-hand corner, it will tell you how many points you would need in order to make a successful thesis. At the bottom of the card, it will tell you each of the bonuses available for the cubes. In this example, the green cubes are worth as many points as they are shown. The red cubes get an additional 2 per cube. Every blue cube gets a -1. Every yellow cube gets a +1, while every pink cube or purple cube gets a neutral point, so as much as they represent. Same as the green. Now, let's refer back to our player board so I can explain the rest to you. As you can see over here, the knowledge token requires 2 greens and 1 red. This knowledge token allows you to peek at the clan card, which I just explained. So, as soon as you get 2 greens and 1 red on Rebecca, she is able to look at the board straight away and reveal that these are the Blood Worshippers, and she can keep this information secret and peek at it at any time. If at any time a player were unable to satisfy the condition, let's say Rebecca lost 1 of her green cubes and no longer satisfies the condition, she still gets to see the clan card, because the knowledge token is a permanent buff that only needs to be satisfied once. So no matter what, throughout the rest of the game, she is able to peek at that card whenever she wants to. At the very start of the game, all players will start off with no knowledge cubes on each one of their player tracks. The amount of points available to them on a certain track is the lowest value that isn't covered. So in this example, everything here is a 0. Rebecca then studies and then gains this green cube, so now her points is at 2. 0, 0, 0, 0. She studies again, and she's able to get another 2 points, and 1 red point. This means that she currently has 3 points plus 4, which is 7. If Rebecca is able to study one more time and get one more green cube, you will see that in addition to getting 6 points, she is able to flip down her stealth value by 1. That's what this little arrow means. It just means that whenever you fulfill this condition, you're able to increase your base stealth value by 1. I'll explain what stealth values are later on. If Rebecca is able to study one more time to gain another green cube, she will get the additional points stated as well as one of the stars. Now, stars are very important inside this game because you need at least 2 stars in order to submit a thesis. You'll notice that in order to successfully make a thesis for the Blood Worshippers, she needs 30 points. However, currently, she has 11 points, plus 2 for each red cube she has. She has 1 red cube, so she has 13 points, so she's short 17 points. You will notice that there is a color outline on each one of these stars. Those are only for expansions, so inside the base game you can ignore those colors. You see how Rebecca has 1 star, and everyone else is at 0 stars. You can see that as Valerio has 0 cubes and 0 stars. As he has 0 stars and Rebecca has 1, Rebecca has more cubes than Valerio. Hence, Valerio will flip over to a much stronger side, giving him enhanced abilities and attributes. Once Valerio has stars equal to Rebecca, regardless of what track it's on, he will then flip back over to his normal side. The remaining players who do not have stars remain on their more powerful sides. If Rebecca is able to gain another star, Valerio will then flip back over to his more powerful sides. The others will also remain on their more powerful sides, even though they are 2 stars behind instead of 1, and Valerio is only 1 star behind. Next, you would take out the panic cards and then give them a good shuffle. Place them where all players can reach them. Next, you will grab the intern cards, but you don't need to shuffle these, because they can be acquired using trick cards throughout the game. Then, you grab the randomizer cards, and give them a good shuffle. These random cards will be used throughout the game in order to generate randomness. So, to give you a better explanation, I'm just going to flip one of them over and explain this. Orientated so that this picture is in line with the picture on your player board. In this card, the green. So on the top left-hand corner is the direction, if it were to tell you about direction. Over here is a player color. So if a boss were to spawn and he says, go to this player color, he will go and move towards this player. In this case, the blue player. If it were to say a random cube to be dropped or whatever, then a green cube will be dropped in this instance. Place these where all people can get it. Next, you take out the boss card. There's only one inside the base game, which is Drunk Latus. He has 2 sides to him. The easy side, and the more difficult side. For this example, we're going to play with the easier side. There are 4 categories to a boss. The first is his sighting value. So if you were ever inside a location with this boss, he will make it harder for you in order to study and get information cubes. When a game begins, the boss isn't actually spawned. Instead, the first player who goes into a boss location with the boss activation will then follow the text written on sighting. Subsequent boss location activations use the activation text instead. Whenever a boss encounters a player, he will use the encounter text. In this example, Drunk Latus will draw a random card, and depending on the gem on the card, will use one of those effects. Place the boss card where everyone can read it, along with the boss miniature. Take your huge stack of trick cards and give them a good shuffle. Deal 1 card for the first player, deal 2 cards for the second player, deal 3 cards for the third player, and then deal 4 cards for the fourth player. Remember, always draw back up to your hand limit regardless of how many cards you started the game with. Now there are 6 different types of cards inside the game. There are notoriety cards, there are fate cards, there are subterfuge cards, there are magic cards, there are social cards, and there are exploration cards. I will now explain the iconography of these cards. On the top left-hand corner, you will see the stealth or alert value this card is worth once it's played during your turn. I'll explain how to do those tests later on. You can play as many cards as you want during your turn, and it will not contribute towards the action for that turn, unless it explicitly states that there is an action on it. This example, the word action is clearly bolded, and if you were to play this card, you can no longer take an action for that turn. You can still play cards, but you cannot do another action. I'll explain the actions as we get onto them. This symbol means that you have to sacrifice one of the students in your reserve in order to play it. If you are unable to sacrifice a student, you may not use this card. In addition to that cost, you also have to draw one student from the university bag to put him inside the bonfire. If you play this card, you also gain the deputy. If a player already has the deputy, you may steal the deputy from that player and then put him onto your field. You will notice now that there are two sections of this card. You can use the main action, or you may use the bottom action. The bottom action here allows you to gain 2 students from the bonfire onto your board. If there are no more students inside the bonfire, you may take them from the reserve. Exploration cards have this little boot as their auxiliary, allowing you to move an additional space during your turn. You will notice that some cards will have a lightning bolt symbol next to it. This means that it is an instant effect card and can be played during anyone's turn. On the top right hand corner of this card, you will notice the lightning bolt through a card. This symbol represents reaction. Now, reactions are a little bit better than instants because once an opponent plays a card during their turn, you may play a reaction in response. The difference between an instant and a reaction is that once their opponent plays a card, then you play this. This card takes effect before your opponent's. Even though your opponent played a card first, your card takes precedence over them and this effect happens first. This symbol means that you have to draw 3 students from the university bag in order to activate this card. On the bottom of this card is an instant effect. You can sacrifice 1 student and then choose any player, including yourself, to either draw 2 cards or to discard 1 card from their hand. This icon here means that you have to take 1 stun token in addition to drawing 2 from the university bag in order to activate the effects of this card. Next off, we have the fate cards, which have the stealth and awareness value printed in the middle of the card. In this case, it's worth 4 stealth or 4 awareness depending on what it's used for. The top value means that you take 1 student from the bag and increase your own stealth value by 4, or the bottom, which is you take 2 students from the bag and increase someone's test by 4, or should I say their chance of succeeding by 4. Lastly, we can see that the bottom of this card has a little crystal ball to it with a value of 1. This means divination plus 1. If you play this for the divination effect, let's say I played this card as my stealth value, and played divination as an instant, I get to draw 1 card from the top of the deck, and now its value is added on to my current value to give me a stealth value of 6 instead of 4. However, if you play something for the divination value, you are not using this value to contribute towards your test. If you are ever unsure about anything, always look at the player cards because they have the icons right here and what they do. Now, I'm gonna rant a little bit about this rulebook because it took me a fucking long time to understand what all these cards did. So, let me just tell you, if you were to read this page, you'll be so confused. Just don't. If you read this, it will say, playing the auxiliary effect during a stealth test, the scholar can decide to add the value indicated in blue to their stealth value, or instead the one in red to the alert value of a zone. So, that's all fine and dandy, but I was looking for the longest time to see what the blue value was and what the red value was. I did not know that it actually meant this small little number is actually coded in blue and coded in red. You see, that's kind of my bad, you know? That's easy. But if you look at this, it's like, why is the bottom part blue where the red text is, and this part is red where the blue text is? This isn't like a yin-yang thing we got going on, but that's a minor thing. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. See, these two are the same text box, which is fine. This actually makes more sense because it's blue over here. I can clearly see it's blue, and it's over here, it's red. I can clearly see it's red. However, these are the exact same text, and these aren't the exact same cards. So over here, in addition to increasing the awareness value, you also have to take 1 student from the bag. But you think that's an honest mistake? You know, I think that's an honest mistake. But then, over here, it says the scholar sacrifices 1 student and chooses a player, including themselves, then decides whether the selected player draws 2 trick cards or discards 1 random trick card. And I was like, wondering for the longest time what that meant over here, because this card says, destroy 1 of your students, put him back into the reserve, put him onto the bonfire, and then draw 2 cards from the deck. And I thought for the longest time that there was like a secret meaning that's unwritten or something, or something was going up, was there an auxiliary effect to the auxiliary effect, and I was getting pretty confused. However, I realized that this picture has no relevance at all to this bottom text at all. What the text was referring to was actually this card, the one I was showing you earlier on. And this is the only place that you can read the cards on, and if you did not read this page, you will get the rules better just by looking at the icons. Like, this page just lives to confuse you. Down here it says, play the auxiliary effect. The scholar performs 1 divination. Well, sorry to say, the auxiliary effect is draw 1 student and draw 2 divination cards. So, once again, these two have no relevance to each other. This one says, the scholar gains students taking them from the campus bonfire, which is great, except you also have to take one from the actual university bag, which could be a detriment to you. And over here it just says, the scholar can move a maximum number of zones equal to the value of the boot. So, but like, you also have to take a student over here, and so these have no relevance at all. This page was just a mess. I think someone fucked up pretty hard. So, I don't know, good game, but I'm just getting this out there because, you know, I was very frustrated, and y'all, thank you so much for listening to my TED Talk. Let's go back to explaining the rules. Okay, we're looking much better now. Take the beginning tile, put it at the center of the table, and flip it over. Place all starting players into the starting area. There are 5 phases in a turn. Number 1 is thesis submission. Number 2 is the rest phase. Number 3 is the movement phase. Number 4 is the action phase. And number 5 is the end of turn phase. Thesis and rest are both optional. If you do the thesis submission, then your turn ends immediately and then you proceed to thesis submission. I'll go to that when we get to the end game. 2 is the rest phase. You skip the rest of your turn in order to rest. Again, I will go through this once we get there. For now, we're going to skip straight to the third phase, which is movement phase. If you look at this tile, there are currently 8 openings within it. This means that a tile can be placed for exploration in any one of these 8 directions. As we are currently at level 1 of the dungeon, we have to reveal a level 1 tile. Now these are denoted by the little number over here, and there will be different variations of level 1 tiles. However, for the base game, we only have the Fawn's Garden, I believe. So you flip it over, and now you will notice that this tile is not as open as our starting tile. You will see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 exits. You can place these however you like, as long as they correspond with your current exit, with your current location. Let's see. We can place it over here, as these two connect. We can also place it like so, as these two will connect, and our player can move onto the board. Whenever you're doing an exploration, the moment you take that tile, you're forced to move here. If we were to take an even closer look at our tile, we will notice that there are no dungeon icons. On the bottom is 3 insoles, which is green, red, and blue. As soon as this is populated, you put the corresponding color or cube onto each one of their slots. Over here is the alert value. You will need a stealth value equal to or greater than this value in order to steal one of these cubes. And over here is the dungeon floor and the tile number. So even though I drew this location card, I do not have to determine the location, I just have to be on it at the very end. So I can choose to put it here, 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 etc. depending on what I feel like. So we're going to place it over here because my camera doesn't have a wide range. As it has been placed, Sophia moves onto it. Cubes get populated. So before we move on with Sophia's movement, we're going to talk a little bit more about the starting location. When you're inside the starting location, you cannot be considered for any game effects. That means any negative effects, positive effects cannot affect you. Whenever you are targeted by a player or a boss, it's negated because they cannot target you inside the starting location. Randomizers cannot target the area either, even if it points towards you. You cannot suffer from the effects of trick cards, and you cannot play trick cards. So that's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, players cannot play cards to go against you. On the second hand, you cannot play cards to hinder other players. So I'm going to have Sophia move into her space, and our next location will be, well, a rather precarious one, but welcome one nonetheless. Let's move our tiles over here. Okay, we're going to take a closer look at the tile that we just drew. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 exits or entrances. There are 3 cube locations down here. However, what's different about this is that it has 2 zone location activations. So let's see what these mean. This means stairs, and this means boss activation. Then we're going to read the citing text of Drunk Latus, which says, Latus appears in the zone where the boss zone effect was activated and activates encounter. Okay? So Latus activates over here, and since Sophia was unfortunate, she also goes over here, because she moved into it. So inside this encounter text, it says randomize for each scholar encountered. So we will take one card from our randomization deck, we'll flip the first card over, and then we'll see what the corresponding is. This is green. We'll put this into the randomization discard pile. The green text reads, the scholar takes a stun token. These are our stun tokens. As Sophia hasn't reached her stun token limit, she is not required to stop her movement and take a rest. Now we're going to activate the stairs. The stairs are the only way to go down a level inside a dungeon. As we are currently in level 1, if we were to keep exploring, we will only get level 1 tiles. If we ever run out of tiles to explore, then nothing happens unless we go to the stairs. The stairs means that you take a level 2 dungeon tile and place it anywhere you want, same rules apply, and place it over here, or anywhere you want. For our example, we're going to place it right over here. Then we put down some stairs. The area is populated as normal. Now, even though this area was revealed, Sophia didn't actually move, she just populated as per the stairs instruction. As you can see here, she has the option to now move into this new location, if she so wished. Let's say Sophia moved back, and then she moves forward 1. This means that a new number 1 tile will be put over here. It will populate as normal. However, as there are no stairs in this new location, we actually put down wall tiles over here. Because only this area has stairs, meaning that this leads down to another level. However, these two areas are different to each other. Because this area has no stairs, therefore you cannot move directly into it. We have decided to end Sophia's movement phase over here, and before we proceed on to the action phase, I'm going to tell you more about the zone effects over here. While they're not as complicated as the monster or stairs, some of them are noteworthy and are just nice to know. This A means a secret passage, so wherever the second A is, which is over here, is considered adjacent to it. Let's say we place this location over here. So Sophia is able to move from this location onto this location using only 1 point of movement. Next you will see a danger effect and a good luck effect. Basically, if you fail a test inside this location, you will also have to draw 2 students from the university bag. And whenever you do a test over here, you would take the first card from the deck and place it to your test result. It's basically a free divination. However, these can also come in red, which means bad luck. So instead of adding to your value, it decreases your value. This is an ambush icon. Whenever you enter this space, you are forced to sacrifice one of your students, or however much appears on this card. This icon over here means to stop your movement. So, if you were to place your location, say over here, let's say Sophia had 5 points of movement. She moved 1, 2, 3. She stops at that location because of the stop movement, even though she has excess movement to use, and she proceeds straight on to her action phase. Even though Sophia was stopped short due to the effects of this zone, she can still play cards during her action phase, like this exploration card, which will give her 3 more movement. So she can move an additional 3 from where she stopped, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2. However, she cannot move over here as it is blocked. One thing to note is that bosses are able to use secret passages in order to get to players a lot faster, or they are able to make a beeline straight for them regardless of the obstacles in their way. Some cards inside the game will actually allow you to add zone effects to that particular zone that you're in. The first one I'm going to explain is Teleport. If you add this to your current zone over here, instead of taking any of your actions during the action phase, you can use the Teleport option to teleport anywhere onto the map that's currently revealed. Next are secret passages. They'll have a little X onto here, so same concept as the other ones. So for now, these two are considered adjacent to each other. The last one are trap tiles, which players can also place inside a zone. If another player were to go into this location, this activates first. It should be noted, whenever you're doing zone locations, always go from left to right. So in this case, we're going to activate the trap, and then we're going to sacrifice due to the ambush. Doors over here, so they have a little color to them. In order to enter this, you need to possess the corresponding color. So this is pink or purple. So in order to go into this room, you need 1 purple inside your possession. Or you can use it from over here, you only need 1 red or 1 purple, not both. Also, if you ever lose one of your cubes required for the door, the requirement's only for entering, so you can still leave it fine, but you can't enter it without getting another cube of that color. Okay, let's move Sophia over here and perform our action phase. There are 4 things we can do. 1 is to study, 2, espionage, 3 is to play a trick card that requires an action, or 4, we can use any of the zone effects. In this case, we can use either the rest action over here, or we could have used the teleport options from before. So let's perform the study option. Studying basically means to try to remove these cubes from the zone onto our board. To get one of these cubes, we have to surpass the alertness value of the zone, in which case is 4. If we wanted to get both of these at the same time, we have to pay an increased cost. The increased cost is over here. So if I wanted to get 2 cubes, it's plus 1, 3 cubes plus 3, 4 cubes plus 6, 5 cubes plus 10. I know that's a little confusing, so I'm going to give you a better example. Over here is the alertness value, and this alertness value is 4. So in order to get 1 cube, during our study action, we need to have 4 stealth. If we wanted to get both of these cubes, we increase the alertness value, in which case, plus 1, because there's 2 cubes. So the alertness becomes 5. Now, let's say for another example, that there was another cube inside this location. So now there are 3 cubes, and I wanted to get all 3 of them at the same time. So the stealth value is 4, and since I'm trying to get 3 cubes, that's plus 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So I need a stealth value of 7 in order to gain all 3 of them. It should be noted that you have to declare how many cubes you're trying to get before you start. Also, you cannot grab any cube you want. You always have to go for the cube from left to right. In this case, if I were to succeed in getting 1 cube, I can only take the green cube. I may not take the red or the purple unless a card that I played says I get to choose, in which case I get to choose any one of these cubes regardless of their position. So let's say I'm trying to get these 2 cubes. Sophia needs to get a value of 5, because 2 cubes. So Sophia is going to play as many cards as she wants from her hand. However, as a starting player, we only have 1 card, which is a 5. Now, other players may play to intervene us. Let's say that the players did not intervene. That means we successfully finish our study action. We get to retrieve these 2 cubes, place them onto our board at the lowest value as shown. Now, let me give you a different example. Let's say all 3 of these characters were over here. They can now play cards to interrupt us because they cannot interrupt us if they are inside the starting area, because that's one of the stipulations of being inside the starting area. You're protected, but you also cannot interfere. Sophia is trying to get these 2 cubes. She plays her number 5. Starting with the player from her left and proceeding clockwise, they can play any number of cards to hinder us. Rebecca is going to play Tactical Placement, increasing the awareness value needed to succeed by 1. So now Sophia is currently failing the test by 1 because the test has gone from 5 to 6 and she only has a value of 5. Vincio has decided not to put any cards in, and the last player, Valerio, has decided to put 2 cards from his hand onto the field as such, adding the value of plus 2. So now the total test value needs 8 in order to succeed, but Sophia only has 5. As she has failed the test, she takes 1 stun token from the supply and put it onto her player board, and she has to draw 1 student from the university and place it onto the bonfire. Let's go back a little bit. As all the players had 1 turn in order to play as many cards as they want in order to hinder Sophia, Sophia gets 1 last chance to defend herself. As she has no cards in her hand, she has to forfeit. However, let's say she had this card in her hand. This means she can play it straight away, in reaction to everyone. She has to draw 1 student from the university bag, place it onto the bonfire, and her stealth value increases by 4, making a grand total of 5 plus 4, which is 9, greater than the 8 that the players have increased. Because everyone has a chance to play a card against Sophia, and Sophia played a 4 at the very end, no one else can play cards against her. So 5 plus 4 is 9, meaning that she gets these 2 cubes. I'm going to move on to Espionage now, so I'm going to rearrange this to make it look a little bit easier on you. Espionage basically lets you steal a cube from one player that's currently in the same location as you, or an adjacent location. For this example, we're going to have Rebecca try to steal a red cube from Sophia. If you look at the bottom of your noteboard, you will see a number allocated to each one of the colors, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 respectively. The red is 3, so therefore Rebecca will need a value of at least 3 plus the number of students currently on Sophia in order to succeed, so she needs at least a value of 5 in order to succeed. Rebecca is going to play these 2 cards, giving her a value of 7, beating Sophia's 5. Now Sophia has a chance to respond. She may only play the auxiliary effects of a magic card, a subterfuge card, or a fate card. If you have a card such as hide and seek, you may not play the top value here. you can only play the auxiliary effects down here during Espionage. Sophia is going to play this Fate card in order to increase the awareness value by 5. She pays the cost of the card, which is drawing 2 students from the university bag and placing them onto the bonfire. So unlike the study option, Rebecca has another chance in order to combat this increase in awareness. She's also limited to the same restrictions as Sophia. Let's say that the Battle of Wits ended here. Rebecca has failed to espionage Sophia. Therefore, she gets 1 stun token on herself and draws 1 student from the university bag. Rewinding time a little bit, let's say Rebecca was able to play another card. Let's say she was able to play another Fate card to increase her stealth value. So she has to draw 1 university student from the university bag in order to increase her stealth value by 4. So her total value at the moment is 11, beating Sophia by 1. Sophia no longer has any cards to counteract this. Therefore, Rebecca gets to take this cube from Sophia and place it on herself. The end of turn commences. As Rebecca has used up 3 of her cards, she has only 2 cards left in her hand. She draws back up to 5, which is her hand limit. And play commences, beginning with the next player. Some intern cards protect the cubes of players. So let's say Sophia had the Architect card. When your cubes are protected, they can no longer be stolen, and they can no longer be dropped. If you are forced to drop 1 cube, you can select the protected cube, and therefore lose no cubes at all. All your protected cubes can no longer be stolen or dropped. Let's say Sophia had 2 red cubes, and a card forces her to drop 1 cube. She can choose to drop the green cube, but since the green cube is protected by the Architect, she no longer has to drop a cube. However, protected cubes can still be given to other players by way of card. Let's say Rebecca played the Friendly Depth card, which is a fast card, which says, a scholar in your zone or in an adjacent or link zone must give you an information cube that they have collected during this turn during study action. If Sophia gained this green cube during her study action, she is forced to give it to Rebecca, regardless of the protection status. Now throughout the game, you'll see a keyword called dropped. Whenever you're instructed to drop something, it will either tell you a specific cube or to use the randomizer. If we use the randomizer, we pick the card first, and it's a green, so Rebecca has to drop 1, and then you place it onto the rightmost slot of the zone you are currently on. If the zone you are currently on is full, then you pick one of the link spaces that isn't full and place it onto there. If however all locations are full, then this cube is eliminated from the game. Let's say it's the start of Rebecca's turn. She doesn't perform the submit thesis option. It goes on to the rest option. She is forced to take that because she can't perform a movement or a action phase, because she has 2 stun tokens and her stun limit is 2. So to get rid of these stun tokens, she is forced to rest, and by resting, she will remove all the stun tokens from her card. She can discard any number of cards from her hand, draw back up to her hand limit. She takes students from the bonfire to replenish her supplies back to her base amount, which is 3, so she takes 2 from the bonfire. And now she is forced to move all the way back to the starting area. And now it's the end of her turn. Let's say that instead, she performed her rest action over here, as she has a green token, which matches the green tent on the zone action. She can rest here. She removes all her zone tokens, she removes all her stun tokens as normal, gets back up to 3 of her students from the bonfire, but instead of going back to base, she is allowed to stay here. It should be noted that if Rebecca had any Jinx on her, she is able to discard one of those Jinxes and put them back into the discard pile of the Jinx pool. You're probably wondering now, how exactly do I get a Jinx card? So inside the university bag, there's going to be 1 Omega student, which is the red student, and if you manage to pull him, you will actually take all of the students from the bonfire, put them into the reserve, and place the Omega student on top of the alert card, and then fulfill the conditions here. As you can see here, we will now take 3 times the number of players. Since there's 4 of us, we're actually going to put 3 times 4, which is 12, and 1 red Omega student into there. We grab another Omega student, place him into the bag, grab our 12 other normal students, place them into the bag, and shuffle. It should be noted that when you're putting in the new students, you do not remove the old students from the bag. The player who revealed the red student still gets to play the card as normal, if it required him to take students out of the bag, as well as taking one of these Jinx Cards, which activates at the end of their turn. So Jinx Cards are basically negative effect cards, which usually gives you minus points and a negative effect. They can be removed one at a time through resting. If another Omega student is placed on to the alert card, then the awareness is +1 to all locations on the map. So Rebecca would actually need 5 instead of 4 stealth value in order to get one of these cubes. It should also be remembered that if there is a boss at the location, his stealth value will also apply. So instead of having just 4 and 1, you'll also have +2, so stacks to get 7. If Rebecca wants to get this cube, she's going to need at least 7 stealth value. If at any time an Omega student is drawn and there's no more space on the alertness card, then it is placed over here. All Omega students are removed. The alertness card disappears. If you flip it over, and we go into maximum alert. This basically reminds you what to do. You flip over your panic card, and then you resolve all the text on the card. Following the instructions of this particular card, all the text here will be random depending on your panic card. However, this will be fairly similar. In this case, you put 2 times the number of players, which is 8 university students into the university bag, and an infinite number ones. So what this actually means is that there will always be one Omega student inside the university bag from henceforth. So whenever a player were to pick out a student from this bag, and they take out a red one, the red one must be placed right back in, because it keeps looping around. There are only 2 ways of reaching maximum alert. The first is the aforementioned Omega students. The second is if one player has managed to successfully submit their thesis. So let's have a look. It is now the beginning of Rebecca's turn. She has 1, 2, 3 stars. As she only needs 2 stars to perform the submit thesis option, she does so. By performing the submit thesis, she takes a look at the clan card. As Rebecca already had the knowledge token, she was able to pick this card early in the game and get the cubes with the positive modifiers. This card needs 25. Rebecca currently has 10, 6, 12, 0, and 14 points. Add those together, you get 42, which is greater than 25. But we have to remember the modifiers. So she gets +1 for each green she has, which is 5. She gets -1 for each red she has, which is 2. She gets +1 for every blue that she has, which is 3. And she gets -2 for every yellow she has, which is 0. This brings Rebecca's score up to 48, beating the 25 value needed or submit a thesis. As she submitted a thesis, she is now automatically transported all the way back to base, regardless of her current location, and she gets an extra 10 points for being the first player to submit a thesis. It goes with diminishing value. The second player to submit their thesis successfully gets 7 points, the third player gets 5 points, and the fourth player gets 3 points. As Rebecca has submitted a successful thesis, she also gets to flip over the panic card, regardless of the number of Omega students currently on the alert card. You modify the bag as before, and then you follow the text. The game can also end in a couple of ways. If at any time the maximum alert card is out, but there are no more cubes on any of the tiles, the game ends. If maximum alert is out, you can no longer explore new tiles regardless of how many are left. After the first person has submitted their thesis, they are transported automatically. However, subsequent players are not transported automatically. They have to move all the way back to base, and then for their action for that turn, perform the submit thesis action. In case of a tie, the player who submitted their thesis first is the winner. In case that is not applicable, the player with the most student is the winner. If that is not applicable, the player who is the youngest wins. There's a lot to remember inside this game, so I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I believe can be overlooked quite easily. The first is the boss. If you are in the same location as the boss, don't forget to add his awareness value to your current area when you're trying to do a study action. The second is your passive stealth value over here. Every time you receive a check mark, you increase your passive value by 1 until a maximum of 6. However, there is one card, which is an intern, which will plus it 1 more time in order to a maximum of 7. But that is the only way to get 7. Another thing to note is the knowledge token. This allows you to peek at the clan card early in the game. This means that you can optimize your strategy to getting the right cubes for you. Before we sign off, I'm going to give you a couple of my own thoughts regarding this game. It's a very well produced game. Like, despite all the shit I gave the rulebook, the miniatures are amazing. They're very detailed and aren't that small. I can easily see myself losing hours just trying to paint these. And these dungeon tiles are some of the best I've seen. They're beautiful. There's nothing on them except for background, but they really pop, and you can notice that. Like, take a look at all these. And also, they are layered, so you can just put your cubes onto here. You don't have to be afraid if someone sneezes and then you lose something. Also, goddamn, I forgot one rule. Okay, this is the last one, I swear. And I'm pretty sure it's the only one. And also, the insert for this is amazing. I usually throw away my inserts and then 3D print my own, but this one just takes the cake. It's really good. It fits snugly, and also, it comes with this, like, remember I showed you at the beginning, well, I'll show you again. It comes with this, and you just place it on top. So whenever you're transporting it, it's not going to fall out, and it's just, I don't know. The quality and love given to this game in terms of the artwork and the gameplay, it's just stellar. I hope you guys are able to find a copy near you and be able to play a game. Thank you very much for watching. If I missed anything, please be sure to leave it in the comments below so that everyone will know the updated rules, and hopefully I can correct it during the video. And also, be sure to visit my website tabletop.ie. I have a bunch of reviews and other board game related content there. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and like. It would definitely help the video and show me that I'm doing a good job. So yeah, thanks very much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye. Oh, and also thank you for Alex for lending me this game. So I would also like to give a special thanks to Alex who lent me the game so I can read up the rules, give a couple of test playthroughs, and just give you this how to play. So be sure to thank her as well, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.